So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to August Outreach Committee's quarterly meeting. Brian, before I turn it over to you, you are the presumptive chair. I learned this morning, not the official one yet.
I know.
I did prepare a few words to our little committee right now, and I'm going to read them because I don't want to forget anything. So much has happened to the library and to the world since we last met in March. While the coronavirus took over our lives and our buildings were closed, the wonderful library staff continue to operate, providing books and programs to the public electronically. During this time, our world has experienced many changes. One is related to the budget. I'd like us to think of our work with CELA, the Coalition to Expand Library Access, as being put on pause, not ended. We will still find ways to connect with the community and reinforce how vital and important we are to the Fairfax County residents. Fairfax County Library Board does not stand alone. We support the county's One Fairfax policy on social and racial equity. The library is a member of the Virginia Library Board and the American Library Association. As members to these state and national organizations, we conform to the standards of the Library Bill of Rights. During the coming year, I know we will rise to the challenge of working electronically and find new ways of reaching out. So, Brian, I turn it over to you.
All right. I'm Brian Engler. Those of you on the committee know me, of course. I'm the Braddock District Representative. I represent the Burke Center, Kings Park Libraries, and now Access Services. Yeah. So that's interesting. But I appreciate being given the opportunity to chair this meeting, and then presumably in September at the actual board meeting, September 9th, I'll be appointed the chair by our board chair friend, Milhauser, and individuals will be named to the committee. Right now, the people's names who are on the committee, if you look at the website, are those who are on the committee up till this year. So I don't know who it's going to be in the future. We'll see. I do want to welcome everybody who's here. This is a very large outreach committee meeting. We don't usually have one that large. And I just want you to know that there's no public addresses or speaking during committee meetings, but there certainly are during the board meeting on the 9th. So sign up for it or be there if you want. I think you're probably all familiar with that. I do want to assure you that all of us here who are on the library board have received the Nova Equity Agenda Coalition letter, other letters from the Virginia Library Association, and from individuals. And believe me, we are listening to them, and that big discussion will occur on the 9th. It's not here. The Outreach Committee, as Sheila put out, principally exists to promote the library staff and board policies, the positions, and news. So news is something that we want to get out there. When we reopened the libraries for curbside delivery, when we then reopened them as they are now for express delivery, and things like that, we want to make sure the word gets out to people. So this is good, and I think that we do focus. We have been focusing on the One Fairfax lens through which we look at things, and I hope we continue doing that. And I hope y'all understand that you have an input to that by writing to your individual trustee or participating, I guess the word, in the actual board meeting. So I just wanted to say that up front. As far as our agenda today goes, I don't know if everyone has seen it. I know that the people on the committee have. That kind of ends the welcome. And now we approve the March 2020 minutes. Does anybody want to move that we approve those minutes? I guess Sheila can now. Yeah, Sheila can now because you're not the chair. Do I have a second on that? Second, Suzanne? Okay, great. Is there any discussion on those minutes? I think it pretty much covered everything. Okay. All in favor then, raise your hand. Aye. Aye. Okay. So they're passed. The next piece of business is approval a review of the quarterly programming and events list. For those of you who aren't familiar perhaps with the board, the talking points, we call them, are put together by the staff. They're looked at by this board or committee, and then they're given to the board, and they'll be given there in September, so that the individuals on the board know what's coming up, know what has happened that's important, so they can explain that to their supervisors. Or if a constituent writes to them through our website, they've got the answer handy in many cases. If they don't, they can always ask the staff or ask someone else. But that's what those talking points are for. And I will now turn over to our erstwhile library director, Jessica Hudson.
Thank you, Brian. So for everyone on the call right now, I'm going to share my screen briefly so that you can all see what it is, and then I'll pull it back over and just talk about them. So I hope everyone can see.
It came up.
Excellent.
It popped for a second. But.
Perfect. So we typically share 4 to 6 talking points so that it's easy for our elected officials and representatives to remember things that are coming up for the library. And the ones that we have chosen to highlight for this quarter are express services, the upcoming bond, a new digital resource called BibliaBoard, as well as a few programming items, the countywide LEAP expansion, an author event that we have coming up with Rainbow Rowell, and our My Perfect Reads expansion. I am going to stop sharing my screen because I know a lot of people have graphics up and want to be able to share those. Okay. So I will talk through some of those individually. And trustees, you are welcome to ask any questions as we go through them. These are yours to edit or add to as you'd like. So the first one is the general Library Express services. I think many of you have already got a good feeling about how that is going. We've been providing express services since July 13th, and they've gone very, very well. We migrated into that from curbside. It is still an express model, so you can't come into the library and hang out all day, which is, we usually want people to think of the library as a third space, and we just can't support that right now. But you can come in for 30-minute increments. We have limited capacities in the facility. We can't offer any public programming, but we do have it all going on virtually. We continue to quarantine materials. We're up to 96 hours right now for all library materials based on federal guidance and lab study. And when you come in for those 30 minutes, you are welcome to browse the shelves, chat with your favorite staff member, use the computers, print and copy, any of the normal things that you'd be doing just on a limited time frame. We anticipate staying in express services at least through the beginning of phase 4, and we don't know how long that'll be, but it has been going very, very well so far. We want to make sure that we continue to promote that so that people aren't disappointed if they show up at the library and think they can stay all day, or if they didn't know we were reopened at all, they know that you can come in and have in-branch services, or you can continue to use curbside or virtual if you'd like. Any questions about the express services item? Okay. The next one is the November 2020 bond referenda. The Board of Supervisors voted on the official bond language at their July 14th meeting, and then at the plain language that will go out to the community pamphlet at their July 28th meeting. And next up is the actual election. Our residents will have an opportunity to vote on a $90 million bond. That's for 4 library facilities: George Mason Regional, Sherwood Regional, Kingstown, which is currently a community library, but will become a regional, and Patrick Henry. You voters will vote on those in total. You don't get to vote on individual library facilities. It's one bulk item. And several of those are co-located facilities. So the Kingstown Library is part of a general county complex now with the library, the Franconia Police Station, the newly district board office, a child care center, a small local history museum, and structured split parking. And the Patrick Henry Library, as many of you who've been there before know, desperately needs more parking. So the bond is for enough money to build a new library and a structured parking deck right next to it, which will be shared with the town of Vienna, who would also put money into that item. So at this point, staff and the library board, as entities of the county, we can't really advocate for any of this. Our job is just to share information. So any advocacy is coming from our partner groups like the Library Foundation or the Library Friends groups. Any questions about that item?
Nope.
The third item is Biblio Board. This is an interesting one for us. It was a contract we had already had in process before the coronavirus really came to fruition in our local area. And the point of that service is that people can now create, edit, format, and generate their own print-ready books. So it's meant to be a tool to support our community of local writers as they want to develop their own independent works. And they can also share those items with the library for the public's consumption. We tested it out during the pandemic, and we used it to collect resident experiences on living through the coronavirus, and those are available through the Virginia Rooms website. We don't have a lot else available right now because we just finished getting the contract done, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to use this to support additional local author groups in the future, and that people will be able to share their works in new ways. Okay, so those are our general updates. Programming has some really good ones. We've been talking for 3 years now about LEAP, the Library Equity Access Pass. At this point, we still charge fines on materials that are overdue in our libraries, and we knew that that was a barrier to access for particularly our school kids. And so in partnership with FCPS, about 3 years ago now, we started a pilot program for these virtual library cards for students, which would not accrue fines and would not generate any lost charges if the child did not bring the book back. In the first year, we piloted with kindergarten students in the Justice Pyramid. And then the second year, we expanded it to all students in Justice. And as of October 1st, it will be expanded to all students in all ages at FCPS. Parents are welcome to opt out like they are with any other program that the schools provide, but we're hoping that people really appreciate that this is an opportunity. If your little person lost a couple of books over time and you haven't been able to find them or pay for them, but you really still want them to be able to use library services, you can come in and use this virtual card and check out a few items and restore library services until we can take care of your regular card. It's been a very fulfilling program for both the library and for the school system to make sure that we can give access to kids again. Any questions about that one?
I have a question.
Jane.
So when this comes out in October, how will the kids and the families find out? Is that something the library pushes out to the families? Is that something we need the schools to do for us? How does that get out?
So that's being mostly handled by our partners in the schools. I saw, oops. I think somebody else is sharing their screen right now, which is lovely, but thank you for that. For the schools, mostly that's being handled by our partners in the school libraries. So Priscilla Dando, who is the coordinator for library instructional services for FCPS, sent an email around to all of the principals pretty recently, and then that was going to be incorporated into a future newsletter that goes out to all parents. It's also provided through the can't remember the exact phrase. It's the whatever the opt-out package that goes to all the parents in case you don't want to participate in the program. But in general, the library is promoting it in our facilities and through our website. And FCPS has been doing the direct communication with students and principals and teachers.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one other question. I might be getting ahead, but it's about fines and adults. The Food for Fines program, Read Away Your Fines, those are huge successes. I know that we had talked about plans to just do away with fines, but that required a little bit of budget money to cover the lost revenues. Is that impacted by COVID? Where does it stand for if we really want to wipe out a fine structure at the libraries?
Great question. So the library had put forward a budget request as part of our developed budget for fiscal year 21, which would have started July 1st of this year. And we had requested the elimination of fines on children and teen materials. Okay. That was originally approved, and we were all very, very excited. And then that advertised budget came out February 25th, I think, mid to late February 2020. And then the county revised the budget and released a new advertised budget in late April of 2020. And that one had removed almost all of the new programs, services, and reductions for things like fines and fees that had originally been included. So the library's request to eliminate fines was removed, the money for expanded hours was removed, and our funding for a new social worker position was removed.
Right.
So at this point, there is nothing currently on the books for the library to remove fines and fees for children or adults, unfortunately. Depending on the year, and obviously this is not a normal year, but if it was a regular year when we were open the full amount of time, we typically take in like $800,000 in fines and fees a year, which is does not come back to the library, goes into the county's general fund. And the county is trying to ensure that there's enough money available right now, resource-wise, to cover anything else that comes up if there's additional funding needs for the pandemic. So while we could very likely include that again as part of our budget submission for fiscal year 2022, which would start July 1st of 2021, I could not guarantee what the outcome would be at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Suzanne, I saw your hand as well.
Yeah, I wondered, has somebody apprised the City of Fairfax School Board about the LEAP program?
That's an excellent question, but it's not one I know the answer to offhand. I'll follow up and get back with you.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions about LEAP? Okay. The next update under programming is Rainbow Rowell, who's a personal favorite author of mine. I was thrilled to see that we had her scheduled. This is actually our third rescheduling of Ms. Rowell. She was supposed to be here last fall for the Fall for the Book program, of which the library is a co-sponsor. She tends to write teen and kind of emerging adult novels. My favorite ones have been Carry On a Wayward Son, which are kind of alternative takes on like a Harry Potter theme. It's like, you know, they're in a magical school and they're trying to defeat a wizard. And anyways, great books. And so she was originally scheduled for our Fall for the Book program fall of 2019 and had to cancel. And then we rescheduled her for spring of 2020, and then we had to cancel the in-person program as well. So we finally got her fixed down. She is all set for a virtual program on Friday, October 9th at 7:30. It won't be quite the same because we won't have the in-person Q&A, but we're hoping to do something very similar through the Crowdcast feature, where people will still have an opportunity to participate and engage with the author and ask her, you know, when her third book in that series is going to come out. So we're very excited about that one and hope that everything stays on track and that we don't have to reschedule her for a fourth time. And the last item on our talking points is My Perfect Read Mondays. A couple of years ago now, we started the My Perfect Read program, which is a concierge book recommendation service. So you can connect directly with an individual FCPL library employee, talk with them about your interest in books and other materials that the library can help you find really individualized recommendations for. And that really took off during this closure because people were looking for great things to read that fit their interests. And we tried to figure out how to expand on that and landed on My Perfect Read Mondays, where we take some of those themes that we're hearing from people through the requests that come in and develop a whole cache of items which might fit in with it. So some of the ones that we got requests for and developed social media feeds and posts about were camping and road trips, because as you might anticipate, people were trying to find something to do during the pandemic, dogs, camping, Father's Day, humor, there's a whole bunch of really good ones. And because we did it as a linked service, you could look at those lists and immediately go and place items on hold, which we have been very happy with. So we plan to continue that even though our libraries are reopened, because it's a really good service that people have been utilizing to place holds on items. So those are all of our fall 2020 talking points, other than Jane's query about LEAP and how it's being promoted, which we'll add in as a bulletin there. And Suzanne's about if the City of Fairfax has been notified, which we'll find out and incorporate as well. Any other questions or additions that you all would like on this document?
I don't have any. I think it looks great. I appreciate that you do this every month, you and the staff. Okay, so we don't have to approve this. We'll just see it in its final form next week, right?
Yes, this will be part of your board packet for September 9th meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Oops, what's this? Oh,
whoever is
Okay.
sharing the screen, would you mind unsharing for a moment?
Yeah. Okay, Jessica. The next thing is to review the draft 2020 annual report. For those of you who are on here that aren't familiar with this, last year, the fiscal year 2019, the library board started and put out the first actual annual report. Other committees and councils and boards in Fairfax County have done so for a while. The library has not. We thought it would be a good idea to do it, and it turned out to be a wonderful idea. And so following up this year, Jessica and her crew, this time remotely, have put together a draft for fiscal year 2020 to talk about some of the challenges. Have there been any this year? Go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you. So I'll be sharing my screen again, and this time it'll be for a longer duration because we're going to be actually going through individual pages of the draft annual report. So whoever just shared your screen, I would appreciate it if you could unshare so that I can show our draft annual report.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it looks like it's someone named, oh, thank you. Perfect.
There we go.
We'll share here and bring it on over. Can everyone see that okay?
No,
Excellent.
it's black.
It's black.
It's black for me too, Jessica, which is difficult.
It's a void.
How
It's
about,
not the actual presentation.
no, I'm trying to bring up the PDF document. You can't see it?
No.
Okay, let me take it off the screen and
There
try.
it is. There we
it is.
go. That's
There you
good.
go.
Perfect,
You got
that's funny. I'm not quite
Okay.
sure how I did that. Okay, you
You
know.
waved your hands, magic.
Yes, I'm made it work. So this is your draft annual report, and the goal with this is to gather trustee feedback from today's meeting so that staff can incorporate that for inclusion before it goes to the full library board for comments and then a vote on whether or not it's approved and can be printed. So please do feel free to give feedback on individual pages as we go along. You'll notice that this is a little bit different than last year. We have a new marketing crew, and I've got Erin Julius, our library marketing and communications director, on the call as well. And so we're both available to answer any feedback or queries that you have. So cover page here is one of our wonderful employees at the City of Fairfax Library. And while we would have wished that we could not incorporate the coronavirus into this document, it seemed kind of silly not to. So we are making sure to highlight that pretty heavily throughout as well. So this was actually taken during an open service day there. And this is just a split screen of this one. So per last year's feedback, we did make sure to include an introduction page that gives a highlight of all the different items. And each page has a page number this time to start out with. So that was a good piece of feedback from last go around. There are welcome messages from both the previous chair, Miriam Smolin, and that's because this period of time covered when she was the chair, as well as from myself. And then we go into highlights. So we've chosen to highlight a lot of things that were happening still happening during the pandemic, including the fact that we really swiftly pivoted to include additional digital materials once we closed. All of our branches closed around mid-March. It was March 16th. And at that point in time, we were not able to buy physical items, both because we didn't have staff there to take them in and because our distribution companies were not able to push them out. So we took that money that would have gone into physical items and parlayed them into digital items. So 7,000 new titles, including a Lucky Day collection where we bought things that wouldn't have a wait list on. We were really fortunate that many of our friends groups, the nonprofit Friends of the Library groups, were able to assist us in purchasing those items. And we also took advantage, staff were out of the buildings for a while, but eventually we came back and were able to handle some things concurrently with curbside that we weren't typically able to do, such as doing an actual inventory of our collection. It was, maybe not the most exciting thing to do for the public, but it certainly is when you know that you can find items that had been missing off the shelves. The Virginia Room also did a lot of great projects with some of their local history collections during that same period of time. And you can see here we featured a couple of pictures of staff who were both sewing face masks, which were donated to local nonprofit groups, and printing, 3D printing parts to go along with face shields. You may notice there's a little X, like a little plus sign over here in the top right picture. That has been noted, and we will make sure that's removed. I'm not quite sure where that came from. We wanted to include some statistics, and you'll see them scattered throughout. Generally speaking, our statistics are all over the board this year because we were closed for many, many weeks, and we didn't have as many people coming in and using our physical resources. But you'll see that we did have really great statistics for things that people could do virtually. So our live chat sessions, which are virtual reference, saw huge increases. Our lib answers, where people can submit questions that are answered asynchronously, again, 205% increase. And Overdrive, our main digital resource provider, we hit 2 million circulation this year, which is something that only 1 in 40 libraries in all of North America can say that they did. So thank you to everyone out there who read lots and lots of books while we were closed. This is the continuation of those statistics. You can read all of those at your leisure, but one that I wanted to make sure to show you here is the ROI, which is in the top right corner. We try and update that every year. And last year, you'll remember that that number was quite a bit higher. It was closer to $6.50. So for every dollar that the county or our nonprofit groups or the community puts into the library, they're getting back, they used to get back about $6.50 in investment off of that. We wanted to be reflective of reality though, and because we had less items checking out and less people using computers, about $5 is this year what in fact people got as a return on investment in their libraries. We try very hard to make sure that our staff have opportunities to participate in continuing engagement and to be recognized because they work really, really hard on behalf of our public. So this year, the library board had their first Staff Excellence Awards. We were able to send 275 employees to the American Library Association Conference in Washington, D.C. And we had several staff that spoke at conferences or presentations, including the one on the bottom left, which Hallie Jackson, our Youth and Teen Services Coordinator, put on about debate and improv skills for teens. It's a fascinating little program. We also wanted to reiterate our strategic plan because everything ties back to it. And our wonderful marketing staff this year actually framed the rest of the annual report around those different strategic focus areas of access, innovation, civic engagement, technology, and literacy. For access, we chose to focus on the expansion of the LEAP accounts, which we just talked about, the Food for Fine program, which entered its second year, our Library Buddies pilot program, which is where we match up individual volunteers with adults who have intellectual or developmental disabilities to create unique one-on-one library visits and services. We piloted at the Pohick Library and City of Fairfax Library. And hopefully, when things are a little bit more back to normal, we'll continue to expand that program. And then, of course, our world language bags. For a long time, we've been able to say that we collect materials in the top 4 spoken languages in Fairfax County, English, Spanish, Korean, and Vietnamese, but we know that's not enough. We don't have enough money to buy a ton of books in every language spoken in Fairfax County, although we wish we did, obviously. So what we chose to do as a midterm measure was to provide these world language kits. They're offered in Arabic, Chinese, Tamil, and Urdu, and we plan to expand that as well when we can. And they're little kits, so they're themed, they're all for children right now. Some of them are in just that one language, some are bilingual, but the goal is to see what kind of interest and need there is in the broader community for additional materials and languages reflective of what they might speak at home. And this is those are kind of like a 2-sided page, so this is the graphic that goes along with it. So we've got food, LEAP, and our happy little book carts. Our second area is innovation. And many of these are focused directly around services we provide since we've been closed to the public. So instead of our traditional summer reading program where people come in and attend programs and go through the game process, we change it to a virtual one. So it's still a game board and you can still win prizes as a child or even as an adult, but we did it all online. And one of the fun things that happened this year is normally our Little League kids, the ones whose parents bring them in, tend to have the highest participation rates. But this year, teens actually were one of our highest participating groups, because I'm not quite sure why, but it was wonderful and we were happy to see them. We also continued our online storytime program, the last one on the bottom there, with staff from both administration and branches providing story time for kids. So you might miss seeing your favorite librarian and the group of children you participate with in a branch, but you can still engage in early literacy themed events through your library. And the nice part is they're saved, so anyone can go back and watch them again later. And the middle one was happening before we closed and a little bit after. We were providing culinary literacy events where we did these at the Woodrow Wilson Library, I'm sure another couple locations, but it was all about teaching children how to learn to read like a recipe, and then teaching them really basic cooking skills without heat, because we don't have that in the branches, and providing them with their own recipe books. It's a fun way to try and engage a different type of literacy. We've done monetary literacy before and computer literacy a lot, but this was our first foray into culinary literacy. And then this is the flip side of that page with stories about our virtual story times, and you can see in the bottom right one of those culinary literacy programs. Lots of happy, hungry kiddos. Hopefully not so hungry when they're done. Our third section here is around civic engagement. We were really fortunate to partner this year between the library and the Library Foundation and bring author and activist Nikki Giovanni she came to the Alden because we had lots and lots of interested people. We could not fit her into any of our library spaces. We've also been putting on a number of racial justice and social equity focused programs, mostly online since everything has changed over, and we do plan to continue to offer those. Many of our branches pre-COVID had implemented story walks where you can, excuse me, if you are a family with little kids and maybe you want to be more socially distant or you want to get out and get some air, you can actually go to a couple of our branches. This one in particular is about Patrick Henry Library, and it's in their park in Glendon Park. You can go through and read a story as you walk along a park trail. The Martha Washington Library has a really nice one as well. And then the last item on this page was the introduction of our library magazine, Branch Out, which is our primary marketing and advocacy tool for all of the programs, collections, and services which the library offers. We've just hit our third or fourth edition on it, and we've been really happy with the quality of the articles in there right now. We used to provide a monthly event calendar, which was also really well utilized, but unfortunately, by the time we got it to print, many of the dates and times and locations of programs had shifted around a little bit. So this is one that's meant to be a more evergreen document that will last for a whole quarter. And then this is the flip side of that. Our fourth area is around technology. Many of you may remember the catalog upgrade that we had back in the fall of 2019. It went as bump-free as possible, and we're really happy with the new system, both on the staff side and the public side. You can see Joy, our info librarian down in the right corner here, at the grand opening of the Sherwood Tech Lab, which was our first official makerspace in any FCPL branch. Excuse me. Oh, I skipped one, I'm so sorry. The second one in is laptop lending. We started a laptop lending pilot program at 5 of our branches. At the start of this, you could only use it in the branch. So if you wanted to spread yourself out a little bit more, or you needed some more time than we were able to provide, you could check out a Chromebook and go find a comfy spot and use it. We are hoping to expand that in this coming fiscal year. And then the last one on this page is the Grant Center. If you own a small business or a nonprofit, or you're looking at starting one up, the Grant Center is an amazing resource for finding funding to assist you in that process. It is locally based. You can't access the database from your home computer, unfortunately, during normal times. So the grant centers are located at Reston, Sherwood, and Tyson's Pimmet on any of the computers in their facility. And then we've got pictures to go along with that. And then the final of our 5 strategic plan focus areas is literacy, which is kind of the bedrock of what we do in libraries. We are highlighting again the circulations that we have in overdrive. And the fact that even though we're only 6 months in at this point in time to the calendar year, we're already at 1.2 million circs on overdrive. So we're anticipating surpassing our own goals there. We have provided some all-in-one read-alongs for children. So they're picture books that have a little audio on the side, so you can press it and it'll read the story along to your child as you're going through. And we just started Career Online High School about a year ago now, and it's a wonderful program. We are so thrilled with it. It's an online high school diploma and workforce readiness program. So if you are an adult, you do not have your high school degree, but you'd like to get one, and you want a high school degree, not a GED, this is the right program for you. The library offers scholarships. There is no money required for any student who's interested. And there is an application and registration process, but it's been amazingly successful so far, so we're really looking forward to see how that continues. And then here are the pictures that go along with it. We're trying to make it very graphically pleasing again this year. This is things that are coming up, just as an FYI of what's to come. Just this past Saturday, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for the Lorton Library and Community Center. And you can see on the bottom right side of your screen here, a graphic rendering. It's going to take about 2 years to get us there, but we have to start somewhere. So we're all closed up shop and getting ready to work on that now. The Lorton Library will actually expand from 10,000 square feet to 16,000 square feet with more room for children's space, teen area, Wi-Fi bar, and new group study and meeting rooms. We also included additional funding about the bond referenda. And down here at the bottom is the one we're probably the most excited about, and it's going to take a little time to get up to it. But we really want to kick off a library of things. Traditional library services circulate books, magazines, movies, audiobooks, all of those things that you associate with libraries. But FCPL has over the years been expanding what we offer to the public. So we offer thermal cameras. So if you want to see if there's like heat leaking around your door seal, you can check those out from the library. We offer nature backpacks, which are co-sponsored by the state's park department, and it includes free parking passes to state parks, bug catchers, guidebooks, all kinds of fun things for if you go out into nature with kiddos. And we even offer some history kits if you're looking at developing curricula to work with your kids on. So this is an expansion of that. And we are looking at doing this localized. So maybe one library would have a library of things that's focused on science equipment, if it's right across from, say, a high school that's got a science focus, in case someone needs to take a piece of equipment home and use it while they're doing their homework. Or say, we know we're in a community where there are more people that are living in condos or townhouses, may not need tools as frequently. We would look at doing a tool lending library so that residents don't have to put money into those kind of things. You just come borrow it from the library and return it when you're done. So stay tuned on that one. We're nowhere near ready yet, but we're gonna keep working on it. And these are more interior renderings of the Lorton Library. I particularly like the little tree function over here in the top left. The Lorton Library is being co-located with the Lorton Community Center, the Lorton Community Action Center, and there will be a lovely expanded park right next door. So we wanted to bring the green space in a little bit with that one. And then of course, we have a thank you and an information guide about our board of trustees. There was one request that came through already to make sure that we identify a couple of the folks that were on our board previously, but that have stepped off, but were in service throughout this calendar year. So we'll be sure to add that in. And then we've got the back page. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for now and bring everybody back over here. Okay.
Okay.
Think you are good to go on that one. Any feedback, comments, things you would like for inclusion?
Well, this is Brian. I've seen, well, I gave you a little bit of feedback, mostly nits and things. I saw some from Suzanne, some from Sheila. If there's anybody else from this committee who wants to give feedback, when do they have to do it by so you can have this thing ready?
Lovely question, and thank you. I promise he's not a plant in the audience. So we very much want to try and have a copy of this available We're probably not going to make the September board meeting, just to be frank. We're hoping to have it for the October one at this point. So if you could get us feedback by Tuesday, September 1st, that would be perfect.
That'd be good.
The draft that's up is very much a draft. So anything that you all want to add, change, or modify, we're ready for it. It can be the nitty gritty, like that funny little cross sign that was in there, or if we've missed something entirely that should have been included in one of those topical areas, we are ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other comment from anybody else on the committee? Okay. I think this looks good, and go forward with it. Thank you very much, Jessica. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I'm scrolling briefly through the chat box. There was one question in there, and then I'll turn it over to Erin as well, because I'm sure she's got some feedback. There was a question about if Libby was included here, and
Right.
it is. So Overdrive and Libby are synonymous. Overdrive is their professional name, and Libby is what they've branded it for public consumption. So that was
and RB Digital, my favorite. No.
I know you love it.
Yeah, I know. It's free magazines. Hey, what am I going to do? I'm not going to pay for magazines if I can get them free on RB Digital.
Yeah.
Which I
Well, now
can.
we know where that 13,000% increase came from.
Erin, did I miss anything on my overview of the document?
I just want to give a caveat that we found some anomalies with some numbers as we were putting this together, and I got all correct matching numbers as of Friday. So a couple of the actual specific data points may change, but the general tone and feel and what we want to share isn't going to change. And I did see some feedback about including some the curbside stats. Now, since there was only a month of curbside in this fiscal year, I think there are some of the topic pages, like maybe access or something like that, where that stat would be very appropriate. But since that is hopefully a one-off year, you know, not going to be something that we're measuring every year, I'm not sure that it should go with all of the rest of the statistics. So those are my thoughts. If anybody has any feedback on that, please let me know.
Okay. Anything else from the committee? No? Okay. We're into the other items area. And before we start that, I want to again welcome the non-committee members who are here today. I gave a little welcome at the beginning, as did Sheila, the previous chair. I'm Brian Engler. I'm the Braddock District Trustee and the presumptive future chair of this committee, which is why I'm chairing this meeting. Those appointments to committee chairs and to committees occurred during the September 9th board meeting, which you're aware of. I saw some chat involving that. And that does include public comment to some extent, and you can mail things in ahead of time. So please do that and let us know what you're thinking. I do, though, want to welcome you and to say that I think it's great that you came to this meeting because you got to see this annual report. It tells you things about the library that you may not have known. You know, who knew that you could do this, that you could do that. So I hope that for those of you who haven't been as interactive with your local libraries, you become more so simply through this kerfuffle, if you want to call it that, that's going on right now. But I think this is important. And I want you to know, Sheila mentioned early on an alliance of groups that involves a lot of us who are in the outreach and on the trustees. It's called the Coalition for Expanded Library Access, or CELA, C-E-L-A, Fairfax. It has a website called CELA Fairfax, CELA-Fairfax.org. You're welcome to go there. And one of the things that we in that group wanted to do was to get people from other organizations, homeowners associations, obviously friends groups at libraries, the foundation, and people who use the library for any number of things or who are interested in the library's collection in particular, to get involved. There were 3 goals, and there still will be 3 goals. Obviously, we got kind of shortchanged here by the coronavirus, but 7-day service in all libraries, the same hours at all branches are the big ones that we keep talking to people about. But there's a 3rd one, and it says more books and materials. And what that addresses is the collection. I think that the staff has always done a good job on collecting resources from all sides of all issues. So regardless of what some people may think, I think we do a great job of that. And I think we highlight the ones that need to be highlighted. And so we'll talk about that a lot on September 9th, and your input there is appreciated. But if any of your groups want to get involved with SELA, on that website, used to be, I think there still is, a form where you could say, I would like to be affiliated with you. It doesn't cost anything. It just means you'll get emails and, you know, calls to action perhaps eventually. But then you could get your name involved there and find out what's going on in the library and give your feedback. I think you should have more books by so-and-so or on this subject or something like that. So that's a way to get involved. Obviously, your friends group at your local branch is a way to go. And the foundation, the Library Foundation, which collects money principally, but also it gets public involvement. And that's what this outreach committee, I think, needs to do, is reach out to the public, but also hear from the public. So that was my kind of other items here. Does anybody else on this committee have any other items they want to state right now?
Brian, could
Jane?
I just?
Yes, certainly. Jane is our new vice chair of the entire board, by the way. So,
Oh yeah, the power.
Okay.
I just want to build on something you said. You had mentioned kerfuffle because
Yeah.
you're being polite, but there's a reason we have so many people on this meeting today, and thank goodness for Zoom. It's one of the silver linings from the situation we're all living through with this pandemic. But the majority of our board members want all of our Fairfax County neighbors and fellow citizens to see themselves in our library. We are very committed to this. As Brian said, we do have a range of books and a balance. There's something for everyone. I will say myself, I've been keenly aware of the public outcry since our last board meeting, and it's very painful for all of us, but we do have a board who really looks a lot like an older time. I don't think our feelings and our values represent that older time, but we're keenly aware of the opportunity that lies ahead here. And if you're on this call, if you took time out of your workday to be in this meeting, thank you. It's very disturbing what has happened. And we look forward to discussing it in public as we are able to as a full board on September 9th.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. Jane is the trustee at large, by the way. So, anybody else on the committee have any?
Yeah, I'd be glad to say something.
Fran May. Fran is now the chair of the library board. So,
Yeah,
oh
thank
my
you.
goodness.
Thank you, Brian. And I want to give a shout out to Sheila for her leadership of this committee over the past more than 1 year. Really active in getting it up and running, and focused on the ability of the publicity of the events that we offer, the wide range of activities that we offer, and informing the members of the library board so that we can then inform the supervisors. And I think that, and the CELA committee. And by the way, I put the website on the chat. The first time,
good.
I have a sticky X key on my keyboard, so it didn't come out. So I noticed that, so I did type it again. But it's celafairfax.org. Yeah. But that that organization, and I also believe the work of the outreach committee in providing board members information to communicate constantly with their supervisor, was really important and effective in the incredible support that we got for our budget request from the Board of Supervisors. And I'm in Mason District, and there are a number of low-income neighborhoods in my district where kids can walk to a library, but they don't have someone to drive them to a library. So the extra hours on a Sunday are especially important to me as a service to my community. And also the increased collection budget, which would have meant more books in the library, more databases, et cetera, when the kids were able to come into the library. So it's really important that we get support for the future, that we can go forward with that. And to reiterate what Jane said, we want everyone to know that we support the ALA Library Bill of Rights, which means that we do not censor what we buy, we do not censor what we display, and we will challenge any attempt to censor what is going on in the library in terms of programs, in terms of materials, and in terms of displays. So that's really important for everyone to know as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee? No?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Sheila, our former chair, and I will thank you too for turning over a great committee.
Even if it's a month early. I would love to. I want to say how impressed I am with the annual report. I was shocked to learn that we had actually produced one during this time when everything was closed, people were working from home. Mm-hmm. And I think that the annual report is the most important document we have for the public, because from my own experience, from friends' experiences, you focus on the library where you go, you keep up with their programs, you know what their displays are, you get to know the staff in that branch. But the array of programs we offer, which respond to the people in our own community, is just, it's just mind-blowing to me. I just can't, it's not that I can't believe it, I just am so impressed that we're able to do it with a small budget. We're asking for a library to be open 7 days a week, when we know in all kinds of family and living situations, maybe Sunday's the only day that you can go to the library and it's closed. And so, as I said, I think that we're in pause right now, but that does not stop our work in outreach to the community and to the people who fund us. And I just say thank you for this wonderful annual report, because it does give us something tangible to talk about to people and to let them know what the library, how vital the library is to their life, to their everyday experiences. To when somebody needs the library, they expect the library to be there. They may not go once every 5 years, but when they need something that only the library can give them, they're just shocked if they can't get it, because they expect us to be there. So a big thank you to Erin, our new marketing manager, and the whole library staff that put it together. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any last words? Any last words from anybody on the committee? No? So if there are no objections, I will adjourn this meeting and see you all on September 9th at the full board meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Sheila.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Brian. Bye, Sheila. Thank you.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave. Oh, yeah.